bit of cuteness for you. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you know that I've got an event happening next week, and it's called the 25-hour Salon Owner, and we're going to cover off on a few things that we talked about here today and a heap more, and I'd really love you to join me. So the event is free. There'll be a link in the show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube, there'll be a QR code. Check it out. I think it's right up your alley. And if you're a salon owner, hey, this one's not coming. If you're a salon owner with a team of 3 or more, I would love to see you on the day. So enough from us, back to the event. Welcome to Salon Conversations. Nice to have you here. I've been thinking a lot about a video I saw or a post the other day, and it was Kitty Flanagan, Australian comedian, and she was saying that you can tell the age of a person by the way they text. So somebody my age uses one finger and they type like that, but the young ones do 2 thumbs and they do it like that. And I thought, that's so true. Such a simple little thing that makes you realize that you're in a different time, a different age group or bracket. And it got me thinking about, yes, they can type and they're really fast, but I feel like there's a whole generation who struggle to speak, who struggle to connect and communicate. And when it comes to the salon and the consultation, I think there's a lot of fear around failing, saying the wrong thing. And I do think that COVID had a lot to do with it. It isolated a lot of people for a lot of time. It brought out really strong opinions about a lot of things. And I do feel like sometimes the simplest of tasks seem really hard. And I want you to think about how much time you spend with your team, because it's really, really important. And if you've got a young team, which I think is the best type to have, is you might find that they're really good behind the keyboard, as in they're happy to do your socials and things like that. TikToks, dancing, a lot of really good things. But the point is we need to connect with our clients, and that's where I would be spending my time, teaching people how to communicate. Simple things, teaching somebody to compliment a client. Little things like I was taught that you don't compliment someone on something that they had no say in. So you can't say to someone, I love the colour of your skin, I love the colour of your eyes, because they didn't choose that. And you think, really? What's much easier and much safer when you're teaching someone to communicate is you compliment on a choice. You could compliment me on these earrings because I chose to wear them, but I didn't choose to be this tall. I didn't choose to have long legs. I don't. I didn't choose different things, right? So the things that were gifted to me from my parents, I didn't actually choose. And so it's not that you can't, but it's more likely to offend a person than if you choose to say something that they chose. So they chose to wear their hair that way, they chose that colour, or they chose to, like if they might not like their curls, but they're wearing it curly, so they chose to wear it curly when they could have had it straightened. They chose this jacket. You chose that lipstick, you chose the nail polish. That's a really good place to start. And so once you go back to the basics and you teach people how to communicate, then it's just the next step. It's like if you're teaching someone how to perhaps do a colour in a salon, of course you'd start them off with something like a solid colour, and then you might get them onto foils or balayage, or it's a progression. And so learning to communicate is also a progression. And if you're expecting your team members to just ask them to rebook and they'll rebook, that's not a progression. That's an order, and it doesn't work like that. You have to go back and find out which ones have rebooked and why did they rebook, and think about, when do you ask? And if they ask at the end, they say, I do. When do you ask? And they say at the end, instead of saying, well, don't ask there, ask at the start. A different way of doing that would be saying, so if you're asking at the end, is it possible that they've already decided that they're not there and they've left the building and they've decided about picking up their kids or going to the supermarket on the way home? So mentally, they're not there anymore. They're physically there, but mentally they're not there. So if it wasn't the end, where else do you think would be a good time to ask? So the difference is I didn't say, don't do it there, do it there. The difference is I got them to engage and think. And then sometimes they come back, they go, I don't really know. And you go, okay, so what if you did know? So I think the skill is that you don't give them the answer. You don't tell them what to do. You engage them into a conversation. And the conversation has to be different, because if you do what you're doing, you're going to get what you're getting. So you have to think about what's your part in it. And the good news is your part in it is a lot. It really is. And just those little shifts here and there get someone to go, okay, that makes sense. We talk about it in marketing. We say it's the epiphany bridge. So the epiphany bridge is when an epiphany is, like you see something, the light goes on, you think, that makes sense. You have this epiphany, right? So the epiphany bridge is if you put someone up higher, then they're up higher and they can see a lot more. And so quite often when I'm doing something, you've got a round table of 10 or 12 people and I'm working and I say, let's get down to the table level and now look across the table. And you can't see a lot because you're down on the same level as everything. Whereas when you stand up and you look across the table from a much higher advantage, you can see things. And that's the epiphany bridge. If we can get you up high enough and out of the everyday, I can't do this, it's not hard, it's too hard, it's difficult and all of that, that's like down low on ground level. But if you can get a person to get up a little bit higher and get out of the weeds and get up a bit higher and look down, then you go, there's what I'm looking for. There's the red pen. But it was 3/4 down the table and you can't see it from that end if you're down low. So the epiphany bridge is just a way of saying if you get up high enough on the bridge, you can look down. It's another example I'd say, if you looked out of an aeroplane from 50,000 feet and you look down from the aeroplane and you could see, are you above water or are you above the land? Is it mountain? Is it flat and barren, and are we across the desert? But at a glance, you just see and you get an instant answer. We're above the sea, we're above the land, and then you can ask more questions. And so just simplifying things, I think if you can connect the person to what it is they want, where they want to go, then I think they will engage in communicating. But when you come in and you tell people they should be doing it differently without any unpacking or logically thinking what the result would be if you did do it differently, then you just won't get any connection or any buy-in, and then it's a waste of time. And so often people say, yeah, we did the one-on-ones and they were really good for a while, but we sort of ran out of things to talk about. And I think, really? You ran out of things to talk about? I think if you work in the same business, you have a lot of things to talk about, and then it's just constant improvement. So, why do we have to talk about things that need fixing? Why can't we just talk about things that are really good? So if the person has managed to change her rebooking from something to something, ask, be curious, find out why. What did she do that was different? And if she doesn't know, get her to find out, let her have a think. There's so many things, but I think the main problem is we're impatient. And so we ignore it, becomes a problem. We have a big go at it and then we ignore it. And the same thing repeats. And so when people feel like the only reason we're having a meeting is because I'm going to be told I'm doing something wrong, then they're not wanting to come to the meeting. It's pretty simple, really. You wouldn't want to come. If every time you had a meeting with me, I told you what you're doing wrong, you wouldn't like it. And it's really important that you get people involved and you look for the good things, you look for the things that they're doing well. And so communication is a skill that I just think needs to be taught. And a lot of kids don't talk to their teachers about stuff. They don't talk to their parents about stuff. And if you're clever, they will talk to you, the salon owner, because what you want is them to be able to open up and share with you. You really do. And when they do, then you can really find out what's going on and then you can help them. And I think that's really important, that you find out what's really going on. The other thing that I find today, and I'm guilty of it too, is we just don't want to get it wrong. We don't want to fail. Like, if you think about the world that used to exist and the world that exists today, is that at any point you can be filmed, like doing anything. Wherever you are, you can be filmed. And so There's a whole generation of kids who don't want to dance in a club because they're being filmed. So if they dance in a way that someone else thinks is funny or stupid, then they can film it and put it on the internet, and then it's there for everybody to see. So there's no sort of privacy anymore. Like, many, many years ago, there was, film stars that had a private life and nobody knew about it. Like when they went inside a building or to a party, no cameras were there, nothing was done. So it was all just, was either speculation or truth or not truth. But now it's so hard to determine what the truth is, for starters. People can film doing all sorts of things and then they can change it and make things look really different. So it's a very, what would be the word, unknown future as to where we're going. And if you think about it too much, it's scary. So I think, don't think about it too much. Just know that sitting in your salon in front of you is another human being. That's just pretty simple. And just connect with them. Show them a photo of what you think it could look like. Be honest with them. Talk about how they will get their results. I talk all the time about the 3 questions you need to ask. It's pretty simple. If you ask it every time, you'll get a result every time. If you don't ask a person what they're using at the moment to get the results they're getting or not getting, then you don't have anywhere to go on. And that seems to be hard to teach. There's a lot of people who just can't ask those 3 questions. What do you cleanse your skin with? What else do you use when you finish cleansing your skin? And what have you had done in a salon as far as beauty treatments? Like, that tells you a lot. If the only beauty treatment that I've ever had is Botox, well, it's not a skin treatment. If the cleanser they use they get from the supermarket and they don't use any serums, that tells you a lot about where they are. But if they tell you what they use and if they like it or not and where they got it from and that they've had these peels and all sorts of things, that you're working with a different person. It's pretty simple. So I don't know how you could be successful if you don't ask these questions. But if you don't teach your team to be confident enough to ask these questions and deliver it in a way that we're asking them because we want to help you, then I think you're stuck before you start. I really do. And so telling someone what to do just doesn't work. It didn't work 20 years ago, and it definitely still doesn't work today. But engaging someone to find out what it is they want from their career, or, what type of clients do they want to look at every day? What type of people do they want to work with? What type of hairdresser or beauty therapist do you want to be? What do you want to get a reputation for? So it's the brightness of the future. And then when you say what that is, then you can help a person to receive that, because you are in a magical position if you are a salon owner, because you can change somebody's career, the same as a school teacher can change a kid's life just by listening, by being kind. It's that one teacher that saw something in you that you didn't see yourself, that really forever and a day you remember. And we also remember the school teacher who told you you'd amount to nothing and that you should shut up and you have nothing of value to say. So we're really in that position when we look after our team members. It's, everybody has a way of connecting. And if you don't know how to communicate and connect, you keep getting the same result. And so the love languages and the type of personality really matters. I don't know how anybody would manage working with someone if you didn't know what kind of personality they have, because that's how you talk to people on their level. You don't wish the people would understand you. Instead, you seek to understand people. And when you can put down your "this is shit" weapon and pick up your "I'm going to work it out" weapon, it's a powerful shift. And I have the privilege of watching this unfold in salons all the time. They come frustrated because they don't listen, and this one said this, and they've got a whole story of, what the person's doing wrong. But I just think, okay, so we've got that. And how do you communicate? Same as I do with everyone. And I just think that just doesn't work. It makes no sense. You don't realize that you are so adjustable and so adapting. Like, you think about when you're working with a teenager in a room, or you're working with grandma in a room, or you're working with a man in the room, you will be changing your conversation around all sorts of things, the way you do it. In hair is probably a wider range, and you've got little kids, you've got grandma, you've got the new mum, you've got the tradesperson, you've got the lawyer, the accountant, and you are a different version of yourself in front of all of those people. And so all I want you to do is think about taking that skill, which you already have it, and you do it with your team. Most of your team will be under the category as supportive people. So supportive is like a golden retriever type personality. Labrador just gets along with everybody, doesn't want to be pointed out for anything, good all-rounder. Most of your team are like that. And then there's others like the border collie, which is I've got a job to do, I need to do it, got a job to do. Very focused, often not as many in the team, more leaders, more the salon owner. The golden retriever, look at me, I look pretty good, I'm best in show. That can show up in salons, and any more than one of those can be quite clashing. And then salon owners can be like that too. They just want everyone to be happy, just want people to be happy, but they're not sure about how to do that. And they're very influential. They can attract people into their life. They're very, like a peacock, they're very fancy and beautiful, and they're quite often really good at the skill. But they're a bit frustrated with people. They go, wow, that makes no sense. And the compliant person is more like the person who's a bit like your accountant. They don't go, it's $200. They say it's 198.67, which is not really found in salons as much. But we all have these traits. We just have some in lesser or greater than others. And so these skills are just so important, and they were important 20 years ago, but I feel now more than ever, if you can help someone to understand their personality, to appreciate that every personality is wonderful. We don't have any bad ones, right? But what we do need to do is ask how to be communicated in a way that we understand it. It's really important. Like I like pretty direct, straight to the point, tell me what you need and I'll help you with that. I don't really like the stories that are long and confusing and repetitive, and I'm thinking, well, I thought we did this already. Like I'm an impatient person, and always have been. I work really hard on not being that, but I am. I can cover it up, still there. So I know that, and it's got me into trouble over the years because I'm not slow enough. And so people say, you're so patient. I think, really? I'm only patient because I know I need to be, and I know that's how I'm most helpful. So I'm patient with some things. I'm patient. People go, oh, you painted that picture, you're so patient. I think, no, you didn't hear me swearing all the way through the painting. But I am persistent. I keep coming back. Even though I can put down my brush and be annoyed and this is shit, why do I want to be a painter? And the next day I come back with another painting. So I am persistent. So knowing what you are and is so important so that you can help others. I think relating to stories and explaining that this is what it was for me too, like being open and vulnerable is really important. And I think people today like that. There's, a lot more sharing in my generation than there was the one before. And now more than ever, there's a lot more sharing. I was fascinated the other day. My Balinese personal trainer was telling me about another client that he's really enjoying working with because she's getting really good results. And he told me about she used to have a period for 10 days and now it's only down to 5 or 6 days. And I just thought, wow, isn't that funny? He's a man about 50, I think, and she's about 30 or something. And they're both from, I don't know where she's from, Germany, I think. But I thought, isn't it interesting that they would have that conversation just so casually and comfortably and nobody thought anything of it. But I just thought, wow, like I know people who would not have that conversation with even another female, never alone your personal trainer who's a male. So it teaches me that things are changing and there's people who are happy to have conversations and there's people who aren't. And so I can't see how you're going to communicate better with your team if you don't have the conversations. And if you don't make the space to have the conversations, then I don't know how you're going to communicate. I think you need to assess where a person is and how they communicate. one of the other things that I find really interesting is you'll find some person and you'll meet them and it might be someone's husband or, and yet they seem a bit dreary and not very exciting or interesting. And then you might stumble onto a topic that they're interested in and they just light up. And you think, wow, that's amazing. Like, fascinating. Whereas you thought they were a bit dreary. They were just a bit dreary around the conversations that you're having. But I do believe that everybody has something that lights them up. And so this person who works in your business will have something that they're very interested in. It's up to you to find it. And so instead of giving people jobs saying, I need the stock order done and you give it to that person, don't do that. Find out what their personality traits are and ask them who would like to do this job, because people put their hands up for the things that they feel they're good at or they feel they're interested in. And so when you point out and say, I want you to do this and I want you to do this, if you're giving the wrong thing to the wrong person, you're going to get a very ordinary or no result at all. So it's really about coming back to you and learning how to find things that people are good at and give it to them. There's certain jobs you can give me and I'd love to do it. And there's other jobs that I think, why is she giving that to me? Can't see how this is going to work. So doing the things that you love, being around people that you love and letting people go. If people aren't a good fit for you, don't feel like, people will think I'm bad and I'm moving people on. No, you're just being honest. What would be the point of keeping someone who's not happy in a business where you're not happy? That makes no sense to me. So sometimes we're more concerned about what people will think about us than our own happiness, and that makes no sense to me. So communicate long, often, keep improving, be honest, be vulnerable, and you will absolutely succeed. You really will. But it's a skill that we all have to learn. It comes naturally for some of it. I'm very lucky. Communication does come naturally for me. I've just always been the same. I don't think I realised that I did it so well until I owned a business. And I just think there's many ways to communicate. And if you're frustrated and you feel like you keep hiring the same person and it works out badly, then it's a you problem. And that's the good news, because you can do something about it. So really, really good. Fail forward is really important, and communicate well and get your team to communicate well is the answer to more clients, because we all think we need more clients, and I think we need more appointments, and more appointments can come from existing clients. So if you communicate well and you listen for clues, I'll give you an example. If someone's saying they're going to a wedding in a couple of months and they're going shopping today to look for a dress, I would just naturally think about how you're going to wear your hair and get an appointment for her to have her hair done. That was my career. Whereas some people say, oh, that's really cool. Where's the wedding? And I think, well, what does it matter where the wedding is? I'm interested in this person looking their best. And if me doing their hair on the day of the wedding, or even doing it the day before so that it looks lovely when they're the next day, do that. But it's about invitations. It's about inviting people or suggesting that you'd like to do it. And that's a communication skill. So if you've got someone in your chair, they say they're going to a wedding and you don't communicate anything about that, you just missed an opportunity. And so you don't need a new client to take that appointment. You have already a client that could take that appointment. So I think when people say they need more clients, I think what they really need is more appointments. And half can come from the appointments you've already got, the clients you've already got. Every one of them will need another appointment unless they die. So it makes sense to find out what it is and book it in. I don't find that hard. I never found that hard, but I know that communication is what makes that hard. They don't want to pitch for the job or suggest it because they don't want to be pushy or, I don't know, lots of things. I just think, but that's about you. If you really care about your client, you'll put your feelings aside and you'll look after your client. So the answer to all of your problems in your salon is communication. And the good news about that is you can start today and you can make changes. And at first it's going to feel awkward, and then it becomes comfortable. And after it becomes comfortable, it's life-changing for you, because you have clients that have needs that they know they have, and they've got needs that they don't even know they have, and that's your job. So hopefully that was helpful. As you can see, I just think it's everything. It's absolutely everything. If you can have a team that are willing to make suggestions and plans for people and just talk about the things that really matter, the reason they came in, you can't go wrong. It's fascinating. And so quite often, in a few months' time, the client numbers haven't gone up, as in there's not more clients, but we're making more money. So you think, that's interesting. But if a client was to come into you and have 1 or 2 services, and every one of those clients has 3 or 4 services, then you didn't actually get any more clients, but you made more money. Interesting. So it's more appointments you need, not necessarily more clients. So you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one when I come up with something else I feel will be helpful. Have a great day.